Usually when we want to improve our guitar solos, we think of things like learning more scales, learning licks, or learning how to improve our technique and play faster. But there's many other super duper important things that you need to be able to focus on to really get your solos sounding their best. And in today's video, we're going to be discussing something that drummers focus a lot on, which is accenting. As a matter of fact, we're going to be playing guitar from a drum book. So this is going to be really interesting, but you're going to see at the end of this lesson, if you do the exercises that I show you, you're going to immediately notice a huge difference in how your solos sound for the better. So we're going to take a look at some exercises from a book called Progressive Steps to Syncopation for the Modern Drummer by Ted Reed. And we're going to apply these drum exercises to the guitar, mainly with our picking hand. So let's get right into it. Okay, so we're gonna look at accented eighth note exercise number 1 here. And this is a super duper simple exercise. As you can see, it's an infinite chain of eighth notes. So we just play over and over. And we need to look at where these accent markings are. So in this exercise, we have accent markings on beat 1 and on beat 3. It's the same measure over and over, but with an accent on beat 1 and beat 3. This is going to really establish our ability to control the volume of each individual eighth note in this line. So what we're going to do is just pick any random note. It could be whatever note you want. I'm going to pick this A note here on the 4th string. And we're going to play through this exercise using alternate picking down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. So as you can hear very clearly, beat 1 and beat 3 were a lot louder than all the other notes. And this is essentially what all the exercises we're going to do are going to consist of. It's going to get us really used to having that control of our right hand, and then we're going to apply this to just playing some solos. So let's look at the next exercise. The next exercise is very similar, but now we're placing the accent on beat 2 and on beat 4 and just repeating that measure a few times, getting used to how that sounds and feels. We're going to skip ahead a little bit now and jump ahead to a little bit more complicated of an exercise that's going to mix up some different downbeats and upbeats. So this is exercise number 12, and if you look at the accent markings, you're going to see that now we actually have an accent on the end of 1 and beat 2 right after the end of 1, and then the same thing on the next pair of beats. We have an accent on the end of 3 and then right there on beat 4. So let's hear what that sounds like. This one's going to be a little bit more tricky than the previous ones. So that exercise is a little bit more tricky than the other ones because you have to switch really quickly between accented notes and unaccented notes, which in the other exercises you kind of have time to really prepare when you're going to accent because you have like 3 eighth notes before you have to pull up another accented note. Let's practice one more accenting pattern. This is going to be number 18 from the book. This one's actually only going to use upbeats. So as you can see, every single bar has an accent on the end of 2 and on the end of 3, but not the end of 1, not the end of 4. So we have these 2 upbeat accents that are right in the middle of the bar. Let's see what that sounds like. Now you might be wondering, Adam, this is kind of boring. This is just the same note over and over again. What's the point of all this? The whole point of this is a mindset shift. By spending time going through these accenting patterns, we are just spending time in the mindset of thinking about the accenting patterns in the first place. And this is something that you might not have thought of at all in the past. So now, to kind of see the effect of all of this, I'm just gonna put on a drum track. Now I'm going to play a solo, but I'm going to think about changing the accents in the solo. That's it. That's the only kind of goal I have in mind with the solo, is to make sure I'm playing some different interesting accenting patterns with all of the other things that go into playing a solo. Playing in a key, playing different notes, playing different rhythms, but I'm gonna be focusing a bit extra on the accents and just see what happens. So after doing all that work on my accenting patterns, I felt like I was getting a much better variety of accenting some notes that were on the upbeats in that solo and accenting some notes that were on the downbeats. Just that alone helps so much make what I was playing sound more interesting. I didn't think particularly that anything I played as far as the notes or lines or anything like that was anything out of the ordinary. It was a lot of running scales and maybe playing some basic patterns, but having that extra element of the accent patterns layered onto all of that brought it to a whole new level that I think you all can benefit greatly from. So I want you now to do the exact same thing. Go pick up that book, Progressive Steps of Syncopation, work through it, or just work through some of the exercises that I showed you, and I think you're already going to start to see a huge difference in your solos. And make sure after you do that, that you put on some kind of backing track, a drum track, and think about that while you're soloing. Think about using that concept of changing the accents, and drop a comment down below and tell me how it went for you. Make sure you subscribe and go to jamsville.com right now.